Ruth. I think we're good to go. So it's 1 o'clock, it's Monday lunchtime, and it's Live Well Live with us here at Boots Online Doctor with a lifestyle medicine team. My name is Dr. Samantha Wellapilly. I am the lifestyle medicine lead here. I'm a GP, I'm also a nutritionist and a yoga therapist and coach. And we are here most of the time, most Mondays, aren't we, Ruth? Very
We really
much
are.
so to support your holistic journey on weight loss. And today we're talking all about habits. But before we get to the crux of our talk, Ruth is going to say hello too.
Hi, everyone. And for those that don't know me, I am Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor, also a registered nurse and health and wellness coach. And we very much love bringing these webinars to you most Mondays, occasionally on a Tuesday when it's a bank holiday week. We have found swapping to a Tuesday works well for most people. So that is what we tend to do. We're joined today by a couple of our colleagues. So thank you so much to them for being here just to help with all sharing of resources or any IT issues that we may have. Just so you know, the webinars are completely for you. And we have some slides that we're going to be sharing with you in a minute. And there's an opportunity for you to bring your questions along. So anything related to weight loss that you would like to have any answers to, we will do our best to answer. You can pop your questions straight into the Q&A box. We prefer just to say hello and to give us updates in the chat box as much as possible because we may not guarantee finding your questions in the chat box, although I'm sure Gareth will do his best to help us locate those. We also share resources during the webinar. And if for any reason your question sits outside of what we can safely answer in a webinar scenario, then we'll direct you to the right person to support you with your question. So let's crack on, Sam. Do let us know how you're doing. We very much want to see how you've got on over the last week. Last week, we were talking all about metabolism and movement. So, how's your week been? Have you had any wins? Have you had any insights? Is there anything going on for you that you're really happy to share, or is there anything that you've found has worked? And welcome to our first timers as well. Really lovely to have you here. Excuse me. Sam, can you take over? I'm about to
Yeah,
cough.
of course. So anybody who wants to let us know how you've done over the last week, just pop it into the chat box when you have a minute. Metabolism obviously is something we really want to support as we're going through a weight loss journey. Our metabolism really supports us maintaining that weight loss journey. And we've got the first poll here, which is all about habits. So today's talk is all about um, making habits and how we make those habits that stick with us, that help us to maintain our weight loss journey, our new healthier weight for as long as possible. So have a look, because many of us, I'll put my hand up to this, have been on a weight loss journey on and off for a long time. And I think the more, and it's fine, it's completely fine and completely normal, but we learn with every time, every time we go round that sort of wheel of changes, we learn something new. So have a look at these questions about what you rely on when you start on a new journey that might present challenges such as a weight loss journey. Oh, Ruth, you're on mute.
Just to remind, just to remind you, the polls are completely anonymous. So although we can see people are answering, we don't know who's answering what. And also, there's no judgment. I think the polls are very much here to bring our attention and your attention to what's going on for you. We want this to be some insightful time for you to really help. So somebody's
Yeah.
saying they've had a really positive week. So thank you for that. And been working out and making good choices with food, feeling really positive. Somebody's having a bad few days with cravings. We've got a whole webinar coming up about cravings in a week or two, managing them differently. So that, isn't that brilliant? Well done to not
Yeah,
sabotage yourself, Bridget. That's
excellent.
an absolute win. And we love to hear your positive feedback. And tell us how you've managed that. You know, it's a big, big win actually, not giving into cravings. So do let us know if there's anything else you can share. So let's move on. And Sam, you're going to tell us why habits are such an important thing for us to be thinking about.
Yeah, so let's have a look at the poll results. We just asked you one question. What do you rely on most? Willpower, habits, or a bit of both? So most of the people here rely on a mix of both. So we're going to be talking a bit about willpower and habits, willpower versus habits, if you like, further on. But let's start with habits. So why on earth are we talking about habits today? So if you think about your day, a lot of what we do, and in fact, most of what we do every day is based on habit. And for many people, being overweight is a result of food-related habits. Changing your habits can be the key to success in the long term. Okay. Um, we these habits can be a key determinant of health. Okay. Um, our health and of course our weight. We're talking about weight loss. Food, what we eat, how we eat, our snacking habits, all of these learned behaviors, um, even comforting ourselves with food can be a habit. And we're going to be taking a deep dive into habits today because we are often on these autopilot set pathways and they are well established. These habits that we perform every day. And when we because what a habit is, it's this reinforced circuit in the brain, really. It's those sort of autopilot things that are just really easy for us to do. We have to put minimal effort into those things. Our brain has this amazing capacity to formulate patterns and to find these. The more we sort of tread those paths, the easier those patterns are to repeat. Okay. Our brain has an amazing capacity to learn, swap, or unlearn the different patterns of behavior, though. So, this is really crucial to understand. This is the science of neuroplasticity. And a good way of thinking, well, one way of thinking about sort of decisions that we make day to day is having a little angel on one shoulder and a little devil on the other. The angel representing, or the angel and the devil representing those two parts of our brain, our healthy and pre our healthy prefrontal cortex, pre, prefrontal cortex and limbic brain. And it's that side is the side that's telling us that we're doing really well, we want to be healthy, go to the gym and all of that kind of thing. The other side is more of our anxious, nervous side. That sort of little devil, if you can imagine this little cartoon character sitting on your shoulder, might be the side that encourage us to have that cookie, to, oh, just one won't hurt, oh, just have that second helping or what have you, the one that slightly leads you astray. Okay. But you can become either one of these. You can turn the volume up on one and turn the volume down on the other. It is choice. But to begin with, we need to learn to sit with a bit of discomfort and challenge ourselves, okay? When we hear that little devilish voice on, encouraging us to do something that we know is not the best for our health journey. What we can do to begin with is to identify which habits you've developed that are preventing you from achieving your health or weight loss goals. And we need to check in with ourselves regularly to make sure that we are maintaining our commitment to weight loss. Do you really want to follow that little voice or that little nudge that's pointing in the direction of the biscuit tin? And it can even be a chance to give yourself that moment of pause before you take that step. Because sometimes if we are aware of the habits that we have, it allows us to put in a little bit of time, a little bit of a pause before you take that well-trodden step and actually think, actually, what am I doing? I'm on this weight loss journey and I really want to make a difference to my life, to my health, to all of those things that are your part of your motivation for being on this journey. But bringing this to a weight loss journey, for most people, being overweight is not something that has happened overnight. It's following a result of years of less healthful behaviors or habits, and gradually over this time, these habitual behaviors have led us to put on weight almost insidiously, and it becomes harder to lose because we have many of these patterns running at the same time. But these cycles can be broken. This is the good news. We know this. We know this from neuroscience that habits can be changed, can be broken, and we can create new, more healthful habits.
Yeah, and that is absolutely the crux of it, isn't it, really? So I guess, it's interesting looking at the poll. We can see some of you are really sort of leaning in on that willpower, expecting it to be the thing that gets us through. And I think in the past, that's been one of the things I have always considered to be the cornerstone of how we lose weight, how we make a new habit, how we get through a day being healthy, how we get to the end of the week and we're still being healthy? Is it all about willpower? But actually, what the research tells us 100% is it is not. And actually, what we have learned through doing the research and understanding what we want to share with you today is that willpower really isn't enough. It's like a battery. So it will go on low power. And some days, if you're starting the day with low willpower, just because perhaps you've had a bad couple of days, you've had things going on at home, you've got a stressful life, or work is stressful, or there's something going on, your sleep's been poor, it can mean that it's really harder to keep those healthy behaviors going if we're relying on willpower alone. We can also have this thing called decision fatigue. So that's really interesting. So we can often find that we start the day feeling really focused and really strong. But actually, one of the things that we now understand is the more decisions you have to make in a day, the harder it is to maintain your willpower. There's sort of like not an infinite amount of decisions that you can make. There's almost like a certain amount of decisions you can make. So if you have to decide about what to eat, how to get somewhere, what journey you're going to take, what clothes you're going to wear, who you're going to sit with, what conversation you need to have, what you need to buy when you go shopping. All of these things become decisions. They become just something that drains our mental battery, if you like, and it makes it harder to make the right decision because there are only so many decisions we can make in a day. So this is really interesting. This is why habits become really important because if we have a habit, we can just rely on the habit to hold us up when we're having a more challenging time, when we've got more decisions to make, when perhaps our willpower has run out, when we perhaps somebody's saying in the chat box that they've hit a plateau phase. And those are times when willpower can become really challenged. So habits will hold you up and they'll keep you through. They will run automatically so that you don't have to just rely on your willpower or your motivation. I hope that makes sense. But I think the power of habit is something that we're becoming more aware of as a society. But actually, for everyone here, making habits becomes the cornerstone of success. And that is what we want for everyone here, for this journey to be the most successful journey and for it to stay successful. We don't want like short-term wins. We want short-term wins that just become that long-term picture for you, that actually you can lean into just relying on habits that really hold you where you want to be. This is crucial, isn't it, Sam?
Absolutely. And it's so I talked about being on autopilot. So imagine if your autopilot behaviors were actually things that supported your weight loss or supported your new healthy weight. I think some of us here might be on a maintenance journey as well as, being on an active weight loss phase. So this is as important, if not more important for you when you're maintaining your goal weight. Okay, because you don't want to have to completely rely on willpower. As Ruth said, it doesn't last all day, and especially if you have a busy day and you have loads of decisions to make in the day, at the end, in the evening, you're kind of fatigued, and then everything can slip. But if your autopilot settings are already healthy because you've repeated and repeated and repeated them and they've become that well-worn pathway in your brain finds it really easy, and we tend to go down the path of least resistance. That's our default. The body wants to conserve energy. So that is the principle of neuroplasticity, right? It's creating a new habit, repeating it so it becomes so easy. It's not something you need to think about. Sorry, Ruth, I just repeated basically exactly what you said, but yeah, I agree.
We're so
Um,
good at that, aren't we?
so the key is at the beginning, we need to identify the habits that might lead to us gaining weight. Okay, recognize the habit that we have that might not be helping. So an example might be every day at break time, so 11 o'clock at work, I have a coffee, but I'll also have 3 chocolate biscuits, for example. Okay, that is a habit. It might not be that you are craving those chocolate biscuits, but it's what you've always done. And maybe you've done that for years and years. Just an example. What is the trigger for that? Maybe keep a journal. you're identifying that pattern of behavior and how can you reroute it? So think of ways. So maybe you work from home and the chocolate biscuits are always in the same cupboard. So can you, for example, do a little pattern break? Could you move those biscuits to a different place? So move the snack cupboard somewhere else, like swap them around. So in that split second where you open the wrong cupboard because you're on autopilot going to that cupboard, you have a moment to be like, ah, I'm doing one of those autopilot things. Can I do something different? Or, obviously there's other things you could do. Don't buy the chocolate biscuits, have something different in the snack cupboard, like we always talk about things like apples and peanut butter, something that's got a bit of protein in. You could keep some boiled eggs in the fridge. Other good snack options, I would say nuts and dried fruit are a good snack option, like a little bowl of those. Um, and we're looking at rerouting the behavior. So it's not we're not wanting to deny you if you're feeling hungry because you've always been a little bit hungry at that time. Also, looking at what you had for breakfast in this particular example, can we keep your hunger locked up till lunch, by having a bit more protein, maybe some fiber and healthy fats in your breakfast? But we want to look at swapping out that old habit. Do you have to have a snack at all at that time if you've had a good breakfast? Could you, I mean, having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea at that time isn't really a problem at all, but what are you having with it? And is that a conscious thing or is it an unconscious thing? And our autopilot behaviors tend to be quite unconscious. They're just habits and we don't really think about it. We might not even be hungry. We're just, oh, I always have three chocolate biscuits with my cup of tea at 11 o'clock. It's what we're looking at here is without judgment. Please don't think that I am judging anybody. Ruth and I are not here to judge anyone, and we're here to help you. Just identify without any meanness to ourselves. We're just recognizing, and this is just an example of something that you might notice you're derailing yourself. Another one might be in the evening. This is a classic, watching a TV show and having a bowl of snacks or something with you, and you're not really actually that interested in the snack. It's just a kind of autopilot behavior. Maybe it's comforting, maybe it's somehow self-soothing, these kinds of things. So we're just looking at where we are snacking or taking having these less healthful behaviors. And it might actually be finishing a day of work where we may have been sitting all day and actually spending the evening sitting all evening as well. Can we bring in a bit more movement? It's not just about food. Could we bring in a bit of movement to that time where we can be quite
Mm.
sedentary? Um, yeah. So I talked about neuroplasticity before. Um, every time we repeat a new behavior, a neural pathway is reinforced. So one thing that we can talk about is having a cue for something, like like I said, the 11 o'clock snack, or a habit like bringing it, like I was talking about, bringing a bit more movement into your day. So, for example, the cue might be every time you boil the kettle over the day. I don't know about you. I drink quite a lot of hot drinks over the day, so I'm boiling the kettle quite a few times. Could I use that as a cue to move my body? So I've walked to the kitchen. Okay, whilst the kettle's boiling for a couple of minutes, could I be doing something like marching on the spot, like push-ups against the wall, like a few squats? It's quite a nice way to remind yourself that you need a bit of movement, or you could do a little bit of that's a little bit of resistance training just with body weight right there. So it's a good way to introduce a bit of movement if you recognize a habit of yours perhaps is to be quite sedentary over a work day, for example. Um, there is yeah, there's also, I'm just looking at some notes here. The power of habit. The research by Charles Duhigg found that we often eat mindlessly and need a cue to help us to understand we have eaten a portion. So, we can often go a bit overboard when we're not thinking and eat more than we really need, and we don't really wait to hear our own body's fullness signals. Okay. So for example, that example of, sitting down, watching telly, have a bowl of snacks, say uh, crisps or popcorn or something like that, but we've emptied maybe we've got the whole bag. So we're going through a big sharing bag of that snack. What if you poured a portion size into a cereal bowl and you had that instead, and then you're not sort of going to finish the bag because you've just got a portion there. So it gives you a bit of a cue to stop eating. So maybe weighing out a portion or just, using your eyes to judge what is a sensible portion size, just to help you gain some control and portion size awareness in that situation. So when you identify these habits, we want to create them and repeat them. So they become a daily habit or a weekly habit. This is what I do every Friday, and now I do it slightly differently. Um, so that eventually I don't take the whole bag to the sofa. I pour a little bit into a bowl. That's about the right portion for me, and that's fine. It's these little things that add up, and as we repeat these habits, we repeat these behaviors, they become habits, they become our autopilot behaviors. And that's what we're really looking for because they don't take effort. And then the body just remembers, the brain remembers. It's not a problem. You don't need willpower. So this is how we make it easier for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about sort of getting those things in place so that actually you don't need that willpower. You can just turn up and do the things that are going to keep you where you want to be, get you to where you want to be, and you don't have to rely on willpower, which doesn't always hold us where we need to be. So we've got a sort of little poll that we're just sharing with you. Again, this is completely anonymous. So it's really for your awareness more than anything else. So we're just asking you which of your habits might be tripping you up the most often. And again, we've all got these. Sam and I are human just like the rest of us. So we know that some of these are things that we have had problems with currently in the past. Lots of people we talk to will skip meals, but find that their hunger just creeps in so high that they then maybe overeat later in the day. It might be that style of eating really works for you. We're so individual. It's about finding patterns that reward us, that make us feel good. And the reward is so much more than just a number on the scales. It's about our zest for life, our vitality, all of those things. Lots of
Yeah.
people are saying that they're eating comfort foods when they're tired. Evening is definitely a problem for a lot of people with mindless snacking. So we know this is true. So it's really great that you're beginning to recognize those little trip up areas. There's no criticism here. This is about you. This is about your journey. And I think actually, the more awareness and self awareness we gain in this process, the easier, hopefully, in the long run, it will come. And also, let us not forget, changing habits can take quite some time. We're often asked how long it can take. And I would say it's often, it's how long have you had a sort of habit of snacking in the evening? If you've been doing that for quite a few years or quite a few months, it's going to take a little bit of practice. And you have to practice and you have to remind your brain that this is the new behavior. You have to reinforce that behavior. It's like learning to ride a bike, learning to drive a car, learning to dance, learning to play musical instruments, learning to play football. All of these things don't just happen. We have to learn and we have to practice. All habits are the same. We have to practice. The more often we practice, the stronger that sort of muscle memory becomes, the easier it becomes. We're not suggesting this is easy at all, but cut yourself lots of slack. So we want to get rid of this whole decision fatigue. I talked about that a little bit earlier. So let's just think about this a little bit more because this is absolutely important for everybody who is on a health journey, a weight loss journey. What is it that you want to be doing more of? Do you want to be moving more in the day? Do you want to be not snacking in the evening? Do you want to make sure that you're drinking more water? Is it that your habit is that you always have coffee, but you drink so little water that you maybe are a little bit dehydrated? Is it that you need to go to bed earlier? We're all different. Habits are for each of us to decide. So we want you to be thinking about this whole decision scenario and the sort of like the issue that actually, if you have a busy life, you might be setting yourself up, almost sabotaging yourself by having to make lots of decisions. If you start making habits and really practicing those, then that can be really, really helpful in terms of you achieving a long-term goal. And I was looking at the science of sports psychology and successful sports people. And actually, this is exactly what they do. They choose one thing. They don't set themselves a goal, their goal almost becomes the habit becomes the goal. So the habit could be that they will drink a glass of water every time they have a cup of coffee. It could be that every time they put the kettle on, they do 2 squats. I'm sure a sports person might do more than 2 squats, but that's the general trend. But actually, it's really interesting. So they're actually working on a behavior rather than the goal. And I think that's really interesting. And behavior leads to habit. Once you have this in place, the habit can stick. So it's really, really important. So almost think about that pot of decisions for the day. And when the pot is empty, you've got no more energy to make more decisions. And that's when those naughty little bad habits can creep in. It's easy to sit on the couch, easy to sit on the sofa, watch TV, snack on something, because that's your automatic behavior. You might not even be aware of doing some of these things because they're so automatic that they just happen. This is the trick. We have to start just observing our behavior, actually observing what it is we do. I was once speaking to somebody who every time they stopped at the petrol station, they would always buy themselves some sweets because that was their, I don't know, that was the habit. It gave them a little bit of a boost in the day. They thought they were treating themselves, but actually it wasn't serving them. It wasn't helping them achieve their goals. So I think we actually have to just be a little bit conscious to observe our patterns and to start making some decisions about whether those patterns of behavior are really helping us get what we want in life. So there's no exact time it takes to create a habit. Some studies suggest it can be anything from 21 days of practicing it day in, day out, to even up to a year. So they're slightly harder to crack new habits. We've got to practice a lot.
Yeah.
And and also be kind. If we don't do it for a reason, just put some attention as to what maybe got in your way, why it wasn't so easy to do it, how you went back to that other automatic behavior that was pre-learned, and just learn from it. Just move on, acknowledge, move on, practice again, make it more of an intention to get right the following day or later the same day even. We don't have to wait, do we?
Yeah. And I think also what I'll ask maybe Gareth you could share in the chat box is our journal is the food diary, food journal, so that you can track. It might help you to identify habits, especially around eating. So the food and mood diary is to really just for you maybe track over the course of a few days or a week what you are eating and drinking over that time and just see if you notice a pattern. We call it food and mood because we can associate how we're feeling with different foods, and sometimes it can just be really helpful to get it on paper and to see if you can spot any patterns. Thank you, Gareth. That's great. Right, so this slide is all about the cycle of creating new habits. So we've talked about this already. This is really coming from the work of James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, which some of you may be familiar with. It's an approach that is thought to be helpful in creating new habits. So first of all, whatever it is that you want to do, make it obvious. So an example might be if you want to start cycling to work, um, you want that to be your new habit. Your bike is out and ready, your trainers are by the door, you've packed all your stuff ready to go the night before. So the cue is there. It's obvious as you walk down the stairs or you walk into your hallway, right, I'm cycling to work today. Um, and you might have different cues in your environment that might, that will trigger you in different ways. So a cue could be anything. Like it could be an obvious thing, like setting a reminder alarm on your phone, a post-it note on the mirror, something left out to remind you um, to eat that healthy snack or to drink more water, perhaps, or maybe it's something more subtle. Maybe different things work for different people. It could be that, painting your nails blue is a cue for you to make healthier food choices, and you will notice that every time you notice your colorful nails. Okay. So whatever you want your new habit to be, make it attractive to you. Okay, so if like biking to work sounds like the worst thing ever, that is not the new habit you're setting for yourself. We want you to pick something that you really like. Okay, so um, and maybe it's the outcome. So maybe it's image that you might you're aspiring to look like, your new healthy weight, and this would what your body looks like. And maybe it's a picture of you from, several years ago when you were the size that you wish you are aiming for at the moment. Or thinking about the feeling that you'll have when you have when you're doing your new habit. For example, maybe it's walking, maybe not your dog, maybe someone else's dog. Maybe you really love spending time with dogs. You don't have your own, but you actually want to have that connection, and the walking would be really good for you. And maybe your neighbor has a lovely dog and you want to take the dog out or go out with your neighbor, and then it becomes a social thing as well. So it's attractive, make it fun as well, so that you feel that motivation to go. So maybe it's a chance to go for a walk, have a chinwag with your friend. You know, you want to we want to really bring in habits that make us feel good, and tying it into your why, which we've talked about ad nauseum, but we'll keep on talking about it because it is so important. It is this deep emotional reason of why you are embarking on a weight loss journey in the first place. It's something to really anchor yourself to for those days where you might feel a bit wobbly in your resolve to make big changes. Okay, something that is strongly emotionally charged for you. And this is the example I often use. Why do you want to do it? You feel like you'll be a better parent once you have got to your goal weight. Maybe that is because you'll have more energy to play with your children. Maybe that's about being an example for your kids or for other family members, that you can do it and that you can lead a healthy lifestyle, and it inspires them to also lead a healthy lifestyle. You want to tap into whatever it is that motivates you. You also want to make it easy. Don't set the bar too high. Set a realistic goal and build on it. So the goal may be to eventually run 5 kilometers. But if you don't currently run at all, think about how you could work up to this. 5 minutes walk, 2 minute run, 5 minute walk, 2 minute run, build up gradually. The Couch to 5K app would be really helpful in that scenario. You want to make it satisfying. So something you can feel a sense of reward from, because it gives you that boost. It gives you those endorphins. It really helps when we celebrate our successes, because we are congratulating ourselves. If someone else congratulates you, even better, but we can congratulate ourselves. We can appreciate the effort that we have put in to make a change. Okay. And it's you're allowed to be pleased with yourself. So we want, ideally, when you're creating a new habit, you want to repeat it as often as possible. So every day is good. You want to take that action and repeat. We know that habit forming is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Stay committed and motivated, and you'll get there. So I'll just repeat those steps. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it fun, tie it into your why, make it easy. Start with something really simple and make it satisfying. Be pleased with yourself, celebrate your success. This is, we are talking, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We are taking things step by step, and we're celebrating every small win. We have every right to celebrate ourselves.
Yeah, I love the marathon, not a sprint. It's really important for all of us to remember that, isn't it? And I guess this is just repeating. So also just the work of, I think it's the work of BJ Fogg, and also James Clear. So I know some people have read the brilliant book, The Atomic Habits book by James Clear. It is a really helpful tool. It is something you can dip in and out of. And it really makes sense of how we are as humans and how to make those new habits. So it's really worth taking the time to have a look at this work, but also stacking the habit onto something that we already do has been found to be one of the ways that we can make it stick a little bit more easily. So, for example, if you always make a cup of coffee several times a day, or you put the kettle on, doing some movement then, or maybe drinking water instead of coffee then, or, in the morning, perhaps doing some squats when you clean your teeth. It's the habit, one habit sticking onto the other habit can make it easier to create a new routine, to create something that we find easy to remember. So have a think about what you do every day and where these new activities or these new behaviors that you want to make into a habit could fit for you. We're all going to be different. So is it that at lunchtime you will always take a 15-minute walk in your lunch break, come rain or shine? We probably have to be ready for the rain because we have quite a lot of that at the moment. And actually, what is going to be your thing that will work for you? Is it that you need to get up earlier in the morning so you just can set yourself up with a really healthy day ahead and have that time to prepare those foods that are going to make it work for you? We all have different ideas. If you've got anything that you're doing, again, make it really simple, fun, and repeatable. Don't make it too big a goal because that can become too difficult to manage. And we can almost sabotage ourselves by setting a sort of like habit or a recommendation for ourselves that just isn't achievable. So we need to make this achievable as well. It's a really important thing. So let's be kind to ourselves in what we expect, make it achievable, build on it, nail the one thing, then build on the next thing. It really, really doesn't have to be too difficult. I think it's really important for us to be thinking about all of this. So, just to run through what we've been talking about today, for Sam and I, this is probably one of the most important areas that we all need to put a little bit of attention and thought into. And we really feel that it's something that can really be incredibly supportive of your long-term goals, because this is why we have a whole webinar about habit making. So really start by just taking a little look at yourself, try and figure out what you're doing that's working really well for you, what you can do more of, and what you perhaps need to let go of, or swap for something that you would prefer to be doing. So if it is that evening snacking, which a lot of you said, then perhaps that's the thing to target if you feel ready. Or if you don't really feel ready for that, choose something else that you do feel ready for. Start by working out which habit would be easiest for you to start and to keep going. And then really just keep repeating that and congratulate yourself every time you achieve it, because that congratulations reinforces how our brains cope. It makes us feel happy about that activity or that new habit that we're learning. And that happiness will create those positives, endorphins, which will make it easier to keep on doing. And we often forget, don't we, to congratulate ourselves on doing even the small things. And if we recognize those small things and we keep on doing them and keep practicing them, we will get where we want to be. So we're just doing our last poll in relation to the habits and just asking you what you might do differently this week. Again, this is completely anonymous. No one's going to be checking in on you, although we will ask you next week. And if you've got anything you want to share, we'll be very delighted to hear from you. So a lot of you are going to take one small habit and keep practicing. Really pleased to hear that. Quite a few are going to attach that new habit to something you're already doing. Consistency, this is one of the key words. So really pleased to hear a lot of you planning on just trying that consistency. Just be consistent. It's so important. And great to hear that you're going to start by noticing your patterns. It's really important. And I think we forget that actually we have to figure out what perhaps is getting in our way of that success before we can move forward. So that is absolutely a great place to start. So don't forget to congratulate yourselves. Just to let you know what sessions we have coming up over the next few weeks, we are going to be looking at protein because we talk about protein such a lot. We have a whole webinar all around protein and making sure you understand where you get it from and why it's so important in this journey of weight management and weight loss and weight maintenance. We're going to be talking all about cravings, which we were talking about a little bit earlier today on the 16th. And then we have a whole new webinar on the 23rd. I'm looking at how to meal plan or the importance of meal planning. So we hope you'll be able to join us for that. We're just sharing our last poll before we come to your questions. I'm just wanting to know from you where you are. No right or wrong answer on this. It's just helpful for us to have an understanding of who we've got with us today and where you are on your weight loss journeys. So if you don't mind taking a look at that, that would be really helpful. We're going to stop sharing the slides and we're going
Habit
to come
formation
to your
is
questions.
vital at any stage. So it's really
Yeah.
great. You're all in the right place. And I just want to say that, Ruth and I are the fact that you're actually here at the webinar and to here to learn and understand this like holistic path to this sustained and long-term weight loss is something that you should be congratulating yourself about as well, because you're actually actively wanting to learn, make this a success. Some of you will be on weight loss medication, some of you won't be. This is equally relevant to everybody. It's not just for
Mm.
folk on GLP-1s, although we can talk about that a little bit. But of course, we can't give very specific medical advice in an open webinar, but we can do our best. But thank you all for attending. We're going to go into your questions now. We've got about a few maintainers here and a few just starting out, and midway through is kind of split evenly. So thank you for sharing that.
Brilliant.
Okay, so let's have a look at some of these questions. So we've got someone here. It's in their first week, I'm guessing, of using medication for weight loss, has lost just under a kilo, and finding food voices. So I'm guessing you kind of mean that you start thinking more about food towards the end of the week. There isn't really a official description of what food noise is, and I think it's a little different for each of us. But if you're in the first week, really be, um, I wouldn't be. You've told us here that you've lost zero point 0.8 kilos in the first week of using a weight loss medication. I'm assuming that is because of your reduced appetite. I hope you're still eating well over the week. I think that is absolutely fine. You're doing great. If you're on the first dose, it is quite usual to find that, by the end of the week, you might notice that the medication has worn off and you might be making different choices towards at the beginning of the week compared to the end of the week. That's fine. You still have to use the first dose for 4 weeks, see how you get on. And by your Boots Online Doctor, what we talk about is by the third week, think about what you want to do going forwards. Do you want to increase your dose? Do you want to stay at the same dose? That is, but obviously your own provider might have a different routine. But it sounds absolutely fine where you are on your journey. Um,
Very
we've
much so.
got,
There's a few people who are in that sort of plateauing. A few people who've hit quite a significant weight loss. One lady is saying, or one person saying they've lost 4.5 stone, but now still in a slightly overweight bracket, wants to lose more weight, but has hit a plateau. Well, I think first time you just have to say well done on that 4.5 stone. That's
yeah,
a really
fantastic.
significant achievement, isn't it? I think we know from reading the research that plateaus can be a helpful phase in your weight loss journey, if not a little bit frustrating. So it's perhaps an opportunity from the research that actually it's an opportunity for your body to almost recalibrate the weight it expects your body to be at. We have this thing called set point. So set point is thought to be the weight our body expects us to sit at. One of the things that we can find is that when we've lost weight, our body will sort of almost want us to go back to where we were before. So actually, a plateau might be where your body is resettling around your new weight. It is actually sometimes the research suggests it's very normal to have a state at which we just maintain in that place and then we accelerate again and we take the next step in our weight loss journey. So please don't feel undermined. I think things that you can do is track your sort of vitality, your energy, how your body is feeling, really lean into the other beneficial consequences of having lost that weight. Check photographs of who you were then or how your body was then, how it is now, whether you feel happier. And also, don't forget to measure yourselves because sometimes, even when we're not losing weight, we can be losing centimeters. So really think about that. And, is there an opportunity perhaps to do a little bit more resistance exercise to really build your muscle strength and really help? And check in, check all of the things like what you're eating, how you're eating, whether you're eating in a way that is going to consistently get you to the next stage. I hope that helps. Anything you'd want to add there, Sam?
You might want to, if you can, get on some body composition scales and just see if your body composition is
Yeah.
changing. So maybe your sort of muscle mass, fat mass ratio might be changing over that time. I know it's frustrating. I do empathize with that. Plateaus can be really frustrating, but they are also really vital for your body to feel safe in its new, well, safe, secure, I'd say, sort of like, oh. everything's okay. We're not in some kind of, famine. We're actually okay at this weight. And it's kind of letting your body, as Ruth said, recalibrate at that new weight. So that's well done as well. It's a fantastic result already. So,
Yeah.
and it's an opportunity to maintain, your new habits, the changes in the lifestyle that you've created up to this point to help you achieve that weight loss, to maintain them even when you're not seeing, every week the scale is changing, which can be quite motivating in a phase where you're on a plateau. We have to look to other things like mood. Are you noticing that maybe your joints feel a lot better? Maybe you have more energy. As Ruth said, centimeters or body composition, are these things changing? Um,
And
those
also,
those things can motivate.
don't forget, as we weigh less, our body will need a little bit less food to propel us through the day as well. So just check in with your appetite. Make sure you're sort of following that core meal plan. Gareth, if you could share the core meal plan or the core GLP-1 meal plan, that would be really good. Somebody's asking about the speed of weight loss and whether it slows down. Again, they've lost quite a significant amount of weight, 4 stone, 12 pounds. So, they're
Well done.
noticing perhaps it's slowing down. We do see that a lot, that perhaps initially in the initial phase you will have more significantly speedy weight loss and it will slow down. We would recommend that you're aiming for a pound to 2 pounds or half a kilo to a kilo weight loss per week at the most, because we know from all of the research that that is the rate at which it's going to help you maintain. So the maintenance becomes the next step. And we've got a few people here who are saying they are maintainers and they've never successfully managed to maintain. So there's lots of, again, it's getting all of these habits in place. It's about eating in a way where your body is really, supporting you to maintain, and having an occasional treat, but not making it part of your everyday lifestyle. Um, I think it is just really recalibrating all of
Yeah.
that.
And I think it's also when we talk, especially if we have a lot, some of us will have more weight to lose than others. And when we have quite a lot of excess weight, we tend to lose weight quite quickly at the beginning stages. And that is fine. So we're looking at that weight loss as an average, that 1 to 2 pounds a week kind of average loss over the whole of your journey. And what the evidence kind of shows us is that slow and steady weight loss, I know it's not, doesn't sound sexy, it doesn't sound glamorous, but it really is. Slow and steady wins the race, because when we lose weight very fast, unfortunately, the tendency is to regain it very fast as well. Okay. And unfortunately, when we lose weight fast, we might be losing our wonderful muscle mass, and we do not want to be losing muscle mass. And when we regain it, we regain fat tissue. Okay. We don't tend to regain muscle as easily, because obviously we need to work and do resistance training to build muscle. So this really is a really important point to get home, and it's not part of the habits talk, but it's just such an important thing to realize, because I think our popular press and social media, there's a lot of really bad messaging out there, and there's a lot of really good stuff, and unfortunately everything gets equal weighting. So
Yeah.
you know slow and steady wins the race, honestly, with weight loss. I know that it doesn't sound like the message anyone wants to hear, but it is our,
It's one
our
that's
our
going to get
bodies.
you where you want
Yeah,
to be and
exactly.
stay
The
there.
goal is long term being healthy, being in a body that is lighter, more comfortable, in less pain, has more energy, is happier generally. That's what we want. We don't want we lose a stone this month. That's we're pushing our body quite hard, and we're stressing the body quite a lot that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we need to really think about how our body responds, what our physiology is doing. Um, our bodies are incredible, but they are primal things, and they're sort of still operating in this. Oh, there's a famine going on, so I
Yeah,
must adapt my metabolism to cope with this famine, because I am artificially not, creating or I am creating a space where I'm not eating as much as I used to. There must be a problem out there. That's what we're working with. So we have to be very kind to ourselves. I hope that makes sense. I think it helps me to understand that we're not, you know, medicine and different ways of eating evolves, the body stays the same. So we have to work with the physiology that we all have. Um, Yeah.
Really good point, isn't it? Yeah, I really like that point. We are very primate, I think, and we forget. Okay, somebody's asking about collagen supplements when on a weight loss journey. I don't think the evidence supports them being particularly inspiring for additional weight loss. And I would say they generally aren't complete proteins. So actually thinking about quality protein as a food first, and then the collagen, if you're doing all of that already, may be an additional thing to consider, but it's not something we'd automatically recommend. If you're finding it difficult to eat all of the protein that would be recommended, then maybe there's a route in then for a little bit of a protein supplement to help. And there are some nice clean proteins, and you can get those from Boots and online at Boots as well. So have a look at those. Generally, that would be acceptable.
Someone is letting us know that they snack on fruit, which is great. That's a good snack to go to. I might suggest adding in a bit of protein if you can to your
Me
fruits and
too.
maybe some nuts or Greek yogurt, something like that. But, it's great.
Try,
If you've swapped over perhaps from chocolates and crisps to fruit,
yeah.
fantastic. Well done.
And the next step would be to add in the nuts.
Yeah, exactly. One thing at a time, one
Yeah,
thing at a
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But you've done something brilliant already. So
Exactly. And also just think about how much you need to snack. Do we actually need snack? If we're snacking, is it a habit that we need? Is it because we're hungry because we're not eating enough in our meal? Is it just that's your treat? Be really interesting to know a little bit more because we perhaps need to make sure that the treat doesn't carry on so much so that when we lose that mindful awareness of snacking on fruit, that we go back to something before that we had before. So see how you go. Quite a few people on that whole plateau stage. So please just hang in there, be consistent, put a few things back under the microscope and make sure you're sort of giving yourself that focus as well. And let us know if you've got if you're if you're registered with ourselves as the Boots Online Doctor and you're really, really stuck, do write in and ask one of the clinicians for some advice because we're very helpful, very happy to give you that support.
Um, there's a good question here. When the new behavior is supported by the weight loss jabs, i.e., eating less because you're not as hungry,
Mm,
is it still forming a habit that will stick? So when we've come off the jabs, what a good question. Now, my feeling is on this that the injections can be super helpful, right? For some, for whoever it suits, for whoever it is, safe to use these medications. And they are an opportunity to create new habits. Okay. But you have to consciously do this because we all know that once you stop the medication, if you're on the medication for a long time, you possibly don't realize how much that medication is helping by taking away a lot of the hunger that was there before. Okay. So you need to be prepared when you're in a maintenance phase or when you know you're coming off the medication for whatever reason that you have made some solid habits. So you can rely on those. So, yes, you will have set down those neural pathways, absolutely. But when you have hunger kicking in and remembering when we say, for example, we've increased the amount of exercise, we will get a bit more hungry. The body will be a bit more hungry if we are more active. Okay. So just be prepared for that there will be challenge coming off the medication, but it's not something to be afraid of, okay? Because if you've set down those habits, you are creating those neural pathways, okay? So you will be able to maintain them, but there will be an element of challenge once the sort of crutch of the medication has gone. All right. I hope that
yeah.
helps. It's you are this what you can think about the if you are on medication, not all of us here will be on medication, but if you are on it, it is giving you that brain space, that head space to think about what you want your lifestyle to look like. Giving you that brain space to make healthy choices, to create your plate, to put protein on it, to put fiber on it, to make sure you're hydrated, to make sure you're sleeping good, you know what to do to handle stress, you know how to relax, you know that getting movement into your day is really important. And you're looking at all these aspects and what the medication might be doing for you is giving you the headspace that you didn't have before because it was filled up with food noise and thoughts of of that would distracting you and taking you away from the other healthful behaviors you could be focusing on. So
Yeah.
it's certainly not wasted that effort, but of course the medication is likely doing something. So there will be a change when the time comes to come off those medications. So definitely putting down the habits whilst you're on the medication is the thing to do, because then you start building those autopilot behaviors. Okay. It's really vital. It's a really great question. Thank you for asking it.
Thank you for answering it, Sam. I would say also don't forget the research 100% says that when you stop losing weight and you're in that first phase of maintenance, you are very likely to feel hungrier. Our body is wanting to get us back to where we were. Our physiology is almost working a little bit against us. So we have to be prepared. And I'd say we have to be prepared with those healthy snacks. We have to be prepared making sure we're really nailing that protein and the fiber on our plates. Both of those things are going to help us stay fuller for longer and keep us, satiated, satisfied might be an easier word for me today. So satisfied between meals. If you're finding hunger is creeping in between your meals, then really look at what's going on in terms of, are you putting enough of those key components on your plate in the first place? Is there wiggle room to get them increased a little bit? There are certain foods which are going to really help. And also, are you properly hydrated? That whole drinking enough water really makes a difference. So I think we have to be prepared. Our bodies are not necessarily going to work with us on these journeys. And all of the things that we talk about across the whole series of webinars really is here for that whole journey, and with emphasis on all of the different components that we need to try and put a little bit of attention on. Hopefully that's helpful. So,
Someone has noticed that they've lost a bit of muscle mass, but now trying to, yeah. So it's a good observation. Don't dwell on it too much. You can build back muscle mass, but this is one of the things that we really want to drive home as well, this gradual weight loss, so that we hope that you're losing the fat tissue that you don't want. You want to keep onto that wonderful muscle tissue that is so active and is burning energy for you 24/7. But it's a good observation, and to think about it and maybe slow down. Sometimes if we are on medication, maybe the dose is a little bit high. Again, something to talk to you about with your provider. If the dose is too high for you, then you might see very fast, dramatic weight loss, which is really what we do not want. If we can avoid it, just going gently, going slowly is ideal. But thank
yeah.
you for sharing that.
Somebody's asking, how do you deal with automatic negative thoughts if you fall off the wagon after creating a habit? That's a great question. And it is something that we know people really struggle with. It's sort of like the mind game of this whole story is actually really challenging, isn't it? And people really often beat themselves up, feel very badly, and that can lead to sabotage. So I think it's about catching the thought and actually challenging the thought and just almost having an affirmation ready to counterbalance it. If you know this is something that happens for you, and it does happen to many people, be ready with a counter thought. Be ready to just shut it down and tell it that's a nonsense, that you're doing really well, that you've lost £3 already this month, or whatever it is, that actually we're not here for the perfection either. It's okay to have a moment where things don't go according to plan. We're up for the 80% rule, get it right 80% of the time. And 20% of the time, it's very normal to be human and for things to not be perfect. So, really, really important to remember that too. And that can help with those negative thoughts that creep in and sort of where you start berating yourselves. Just say, it's okay. I can make a mistake. It doesn't matter. I'll get it right next time.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Great question. Someone here is on a different weight loss medication called Orlistat, and they're finding it really helpful. Brilliant. And again, I would say the same thing to you. The medication will help you for the period you're on the medication. What is going to help you for the long term is your motivation is your forming these new habits and not relying quite so much on willpower, although it has its place in a little bit. But if you can set the habits, if you can practice those habits, that's what's going to keep you going for the long term. Um,
Somebody's asking about a healthy snack suggestion if they're having a sociable evening with friends, instead of eating the crisps and chocolates. So I would say always go for olives. They're fantastic. Maybe some nuts, a small amount of nuts, olives. Um, that would be
Carrot
really
sticks and
simple.
hummus is my favorite, so
Even a
that
little
would be
piece of cheese, not going to do any harm if it's just as go for the stronger cheese you need to eat less. But it's got nice.
yeah,
That may be the answer.
yeah.
Great.
Um,
We're reading questions, so sorry I've gone
yeah.
quiet.
There's some really good comments in the chat box as well. So, that sorry that we can't respond to all of them. Um, someone's asking, I think, Gareth, you could probably share the YouTube channel where all the previous recordings are if someone wanted to watch the, oh, you've already done it, Gareth, thank you. Um, yeah, the food tracker, brilliant. Um, what have we got?
Somebody's asking if there's a seasonal difference between weight loss and feeling healthier in the summer and less so in the winter. Isn't that interesting? Never seen any research around that. I wonder if it's just what you eat in the winter makes you feel a little bit more sluggish. Sometimes just the foods that we eat sit differently in our digestive system. So maybe there's something around that. What do you think, Sam?
I guess we've got various
Sorry.
holidays and all sorts in the winter. So, we just anecdotally can definitely see more weight plateauing and sort of a little bit of weight regain over the Christmas period, and that's okay. That's fine. It's understandable. We obviously eat heavier foods in the winter. We're not so bothered about being outside in the rain, although it's only water. If we can get out and move our bodies, it's as long as we're prepared with a raincoat or umbrella or whatever, it's not so bad. But yeah, I can understand it from a sort of practical perspective. I wonder if it's I mean, and it's prolonged in this country. We have quite a long winter, so I
Yeah,
guess
we
if
do.
it's cumulative, isn't it, over that time? So that might be what you're noticing.
And finally, I was just asking about maintenance tips. Follow all of the tips for weight loss. They're the same, really. You can just be a little bit less consistent, but you need that consistency, and especially in that first few months of maintenance. It really is important to just get everything working for you. I know it sounds really so easy, and we know it isn't, but really it is. It is about that. And
It is
no, you
about that,
can't
and
take
sorry, Ruth, I just wanted to say, we don't use the word diet as much as possible in these webinars because
sessions.
it definitely has this connotation of being temporary. And what we're trying to drive home to everybody is that these are changes that we make for life. These are new habits that we make for life to maintain our new healthier weight, our health, our cardiovascular health, our metabolic health for the long term.
Very much.
And you know, we we it's a big transformation for a lot of us. Okay, it's a big transformation. It's the way we view ourselves of like being a healthy person rather than being someone who is not so healthy or whatever we term ourselves. And at the beginning of our journey, we're looking to be a much more healthful person and a slimmer person probably as well. But really we're talking about a health journey, and it's a real identity shift. So I don't want any, which sounds quite dramatic, but actually it is a big change for many of us. It's a big change in how we view ourselves, and maybe and maybe for some of us how we value ourselves and how we really commit to ourselves and follow through on that commitment. Um, Probably a
Very
bit
much.
more of
We are
an answer that
over
you needed.
time, everyone, and I'm
Ah,
so sorry, but thank you so much for joining us today, and for all of your really interesting questions. I hope it's been helpful. Sorry if we've missed in here. I think we have very much covered as many as we possibly can. Thank you so much to Sam for being here today. We love having you here, and to Gareth for all of your help as well in the background. So.
yes. Thank you, Ruth.
And
Thank you,
we will
everybody.
be here next week. We're just sharing a feedback form. So if anybody has a moment to download that and just give us some feedback, we'd really appreciate that. And if there's any subjects you'd like to hear more about, we are trying to grow the webinar family. So do let us know. And we very much look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye.